Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start it. So, the thing today is all about endgames, at least for the first half or so. I generally stream about 3 hours, so we'll do at least an hour, hour and a half of some endgames today. Last time I was doing endgames, I was going through this book, 100 endgames you must know. So I think this time I'll just continue where I left off from last time and go from there. So last time we were on endgame number 26. So let's see if I can bring this up. All right. So here we are on endgame number 26. This is 26. Okay. So I'm going to continue with 27. We need to go ahead and do 27. Rook versus rook pawn. Okay, so this position, I need to edit the position. All right, so it's clear. Let's empty the board. We've got a white king here. Black king here. Black pawn here. This one looks really simple, but I just want to be complete and thorough with this. When I started this book, I basically just picked a chapter, the first chapter that I saw that looked a little bit tricky from my perspective, and then I've just been going through in order. This one doesn't look tricky at all, but we'll go ahead and do this. Okay. So the author comments that there are no subtleties here. White wins straightforwardly. All right, so yeah, so the white king is not in front of the pawn. Oh, so maybe it is. Oh, I see. I was thinking for a minute that we were looking at it from black's perspective, but yeah, no, looking at it from white's perspective, the black pawn is going this way, so the king looks misplaced, but the rook should be able to save the day. So we go rook h4. Black defends, king b3, king b5 threatening the pawn, a3, rook h3 check, king b2, king b4, a2, rook h2 check, king b1, king b3. Aha. Neat. Yeah, so if he makes a queen, then it's checkmate, right? So he makes a knight instead. That's check. And king c3. And black can't move. He's in zugzwang here. So king c1. That's actually kind of nice. It's a little bit trickier than I was thinking, actually, so I'm glad I went through this. It's good not to skip chapters. So basically, black can't move the knight because it gets taken, and if it moves the king, it's mate. So it's a zugzwang. Very nice, very nice. The conclusion is the king pushing from the rear is very effective attacking technique against the rook's pawn in combination with rook checks. Remember that it is not so effective against other pawns. Yeah, other pawns wouldn't work so well. Like if the king and knight were over here, then the knight would have all these other moves available to it instead of just these two. Yeah, that's good to know. All right, next chapter. Okay, we'll call this 28. Rook's pawn, lateral push. All right, let's say rook versus rook pawn. And 28. All right, and so the position is similar. All right, so is it black to play? No, it's white to play here. So black is about to queen. There we go. All right, so what do we have here? So the rook's pawn cannot save the game by under-promoting to a knight. However, the stalemate chances make up for this drawback. This causes some players to pin their drawing hopes on the rook pawn, but that is a mistake. So white starts with rook b8 check and king a1, hoping for stalemate. The king hides behind the pawn and is stalemated. Therefore, there is no time for the white king to approach the pawn, and it is a draw. It would also be a draw with any other pawn. With any other pawn, king a3 would be the right square to draw. But here, the edge of the board hinders promotion. King c2. Oh wait, king c2. No matter what, Blitz promote to white will capture it. Okay, so he was talking about if it was like a b pawn or something. So now rook a8. King b2. Rook b8 check. King a1. Rook c8. King b2. Yeah, it's just a draw here. So now let's see what happens with the lateral push if we move both kings and the pawn one rank up. Okay, so if the king, that's if here. All right, so let's do this. So we'll just move all of these one rank up. And it's white to play. But I need to rename this. One rank up. In a rook versus rook pawn ending, this is a key position you have to learn by heart. Most positions with no clear winner end up in this situation during analysis. This is an extreme position because with black to move, it is a draw, whereas white wins if he has the move, simply with rook b8. Moreover, as shown in the following series of twin diagrams, things change if we move the pieces. Things change if we move the pieces one rank up or down. It does not matter where the right rook is. The exception is on the b8 square. So king b2. Oh, it's black to move. Dang it. All right, so let's just do this. Actually, no, I shouldn't do this. So why in the previous position, it was white to move, and here it's black to move. That's so confusing. All right, so I need to delete this chapter. Okay, so the black king is here. There's a black pawn. No, here. Black pawn here. Here. White rook here, and it's black to play. All right. So black to move. King b2. King b2. Gosh, kid. Hey, how's it going? You didn't know I was a streamer. Wow. That's cool. Well, I'm glad you found out. So where did you see me? Clash Kid. I mean, that name sounds familiar, but I don't recognize. Were you in? I forget which stream I've seen your name in. I guess it was oh, the Will. Yeah, Sligey. That's right. That's right. Yeah, nice. Okay, so I'm just looking at some endgames here. Let's see, king b2. Avoiding the push. Okay, so let's look at the blunder a2. And I'll go ahead and comment that as such. And it's a mistake. All right, so a2, rook b8, king a3, queen c2. And white wins because the knight corner is always lost. So if he approaches to a queen, then he loses the queen, right, with the check. But if he approaches to a knight with check, then king c here, then king here, and we're threatening mate, and the knight can't move. Nice. All right. So, but king b2 is the main line. Rook b8 check. Other moves do not bring success either. King d2. Okay, so there's issues with king d2, a2. Yeah, and we're back to the same position that we had that was a draw before. All right. Yeah, rook b8 is the move, not king d2, because we reached that position from the last chapter. Okay, so king c1 here. Since there's no time to prepare a stalemate, obstructing the pawn is pointless. So what happens? What I want to know is what happens if you go. What happens here if you go like? Oh. So if he tries to go this way, we can go king c2, king here, And then like the rook can prepare to give checkmate if he ever goes a2. So he has to go back. And then we go here. And if he goes down, it's mate. Yeah, and there's no other choice. And if instead of going back up, he went down here, then this is mate. Nice. All right. So instead of king a2, he went king c1. And then we go king c3. a2, rook a8. King b1. Rook b8 check. King c1. Yeah, it's just a draw, actually. Beware of overconfidence and stalemate. That would work while the white king is on d2. But now king a1 falls. Let's see, let's go back. King a1 falls to rook f8 and mate. Ha! Nice. Just move over. Yeah, because with the king on c2, it's different, right? Now he goes here, and this is checkmate. Very nice. But yeah, now this is a draw with king c1. So if we go back to the beginning of the position, so the beginning of this chapter, like this one is black draws no matter who moves. And then the next chapter, whoever moves has it, like if black is to move, black draws. If white moves, white wins. And with the pawns, with the kings up here, white would win no matter whose turn it is. It's a nice little thing to remember. Okay. So let's move on. 29. Pawn wins versus rook. So far, we've seen examples where the rook was trying to win, but there's one scenario where the rook faces a certain problem to stop the pawn and can even lose. The best known example is called the Barbier-Saavedra position, which involves stalemate and under promotion motifs. However, this situation can also arise in a more standard way, as we see below. I recommend studying this example to understand how ideas from theoretical endings can apply to more complex positions. Okay, so let's clear the board. There's a white pawn here, white king here, black king here, and black rook there. And whose turn is it? Yeah, it's black to play. All right. So if the side having the rook is to move, given the positions occupied by both kings and the pawn, there are just two squares where the rook loses. Those two marked on the board, f5 and b5. So the rook loses here. I guess if it can't go to the last rank. 100 in-games you must know by Jesus de Avila. So if the rook is on either of these two squares, then the pawn wins. The winning sequence is long but clear. The first move has to be a rook check hindering the immediate promotion. The rook f6 and king d5. First subtlety, not king d7 because rook f1 would be a draw. Oh, nice. Yeah, king d7, rook back, threatening check after the queen. King has to step this way, and then king steps this way, and then you trade the rook for the queen. So rook back instead. Rook f5 check. King d4. And not king c4, because again, rook f1. Apparently the white king cannot flee from the checks, but there is one square where he can't hide. b7. We just need a way to cross the c-file. f4 check, king d3. Queen, rook f3 check, king c2. Now we can finally cross the c-file. f2, king b3. That's the way. Now the king hides on the b7 square without trouble. King f3 check. King b4. King f4 check. King b5. King f5. King b6. King f6. And king b7 and white wins. Very interesting. So, so the point is that we can't go to the C file as long as the rook can threaten to come back and win the queen after it promotes. So the king has to go all the way down here and then come back up to hide from the rook. That's so interesting. I would have never thought of that plan in a million years. Like if I was white here, I would assume it was a draw. But that plan is so cool, actually. Very nice. Very nice material here. I'm really glad I'm reading this book. Okay. So now we have a new chapter with ending 30. So rook behind, so 2 pawns, no kings. All right. So the white king is here, the black king is here. Black rook is here, and there's a pawn here and here. And whose turn is it? It's white's turn. Okay. This is an extreme position with the rook behind the pawns. When the kings play no part, the rook usually captures the pawns unless they are far advanced. This is the extreme position where neither king plays a part, when white wins if it is his turn, and loses if it's black to move. There's no happy medium. Play is easy in both cases. So if it's white turn, he just goes b6. If black moves, this is the winning plan. Transfer the rook to the rear of the more advanced pawn, attack the other pawn, and capture both. That is, okay, so if it was black to move, the idea is to play rook a1, then say king g somewhere, king somewhere. The other king. King g3, and then you go here. Rook a5, and you capture this one, and you get behind this pawn just in time. All right. And then from here, yeah. So b6, rook b1, a7. Yeah, and 1 pawn promotes. 2 connected pawns on the 6th rank win against a rook. The same goes for a pawn on the 7th and the other on the 5th. If the pawns are further from promotion and the rook is at the rear of the more advanced pawn, the pawns are captured. So there was another winning line, a7. And the win here is if, so I mean, you have to try to stop the a pawn, but then b6 defends the pawn and wins. All right. That's something I kind of already knew, but that's all right. Rook in front of the pawns. If the rook is in front of the pawns here on the g8 square, oh, so he's talking about the next position already. All right, so let's start a new chapter. 31. Rook in front, 2 pawns. All right, so here the pawns are in the center. King is off to the side. This king is here, and the black rook is up here. And whose turn is it? White to play. Okay. Stronger side in front of the kings, in front of the pawns. All right, so when the king and the rook, if the rook is in front of the pawns here on the g8 square, oh, he was talking about the last position. Okay, so in this position, if the rook was over here, from the starting position, if the rook was over here, there are some differences to note. If the pawns start, the result is the same. However, if the rook starts, black can stop the pawns here with rook a8, but not capture them. Then the king race will be decisive. I see. Yeah, I remember that from my own games. Like putting my rook here stops this pawn from advancing and also stops this pawn from advancing. But unlike from being from behind them, like when you're behind, you can capture, but from being in front, you can't. Yeah, but you always have to be in front or behind of the more advanced pawn. And even if the rook was up here, white moves, wins. And if black moves, then it's just the king race. Okay. All right, so the next one, to modify the title a little bit, since I misunderstood that paragraph. Stronger king in front. So 2 pawns versus rook. Stronger king in front. Okay. When the king and the rook work together to stop the pawns, they usually win. If the stronger side's king achieves a position in front of the pawns, not even the most favorable scenario, except of course promotion, can save the game for the defender. The analysis of 6.2 is very simple. This is 6.2 right here. So king e5, rook a1, king d5, rook e1, d7 check, king e7. And the pawns are captured. King controls this square, and the rook's taking here next. So you always want your rook behind the passed pawns, so you just move it around, get it behind the pawns. If the stronger side's king only manages to stand on one side of the promotion squares, and the other king supports his pawns, things are more complicated. All right, let's go to this position. All right, this is again white to play, but it's black pawns this time. And let's title this. Okay, so here white needs to exploit zigzagging themes on many occasions. First, a waiting move. Rook a1. King c3. King e3. You've gone through all these technical positions as well in another book. Kind of cool to refresh everything. Oh, nice, Clash. I'm glad you're getting something out of this. This is my first time through a lot of these technical endgames. I only knew basics before this, so it's nice to calculate some of this stuff. King c2, rook h1. Again, waiting. So the author claims this is zigzagging. So king c3, rook c1 check, king b2, king d2. Oh, nice. And the pawns are being captured next. Interesting. So was there no pawn move or anything? So after rook h1, if we go down like this, yeah, just take this pawn. Yeah, there's no pawn moves here. And if the king goes here, yeah, we just enter in the same way. Nice. Only defending king's plays a part. Okay, the king is in contact with the less advanced pawn, the tail hook. All right, when the king supports his pawns and his counterpart is far from them, the pawns can win. However, the rook has more resources than one thinks, as we will see in the following example. Okay. Okay, so it's saying that the king can win, but it's tricky. So let's look at this one. Let's see. Pawns win. Just call it that. So the king is here. We have pawns here and here. The black king is here, and the black rook is here. Okay, and it's black to play. Good. Here the plans for both players are clear. With the side with the pawns will try to push one, exchanging it for the rook, and then promote the other pawn. The side with the rook will try to bring the king closer, then sacrifice the rook for the more advanced pawn and capture the other with the king. However, this is not a simple race or a tempi count. The rook has many resources to hinder the pawn's progress. I do not think that many players would intuitively place their bets on the rook in the diagram position. A simple count justifies this lack of confidence, but a deeper analysis turns the tables. It starts out with rook f3. A powerful resource worth taking into account. The rook prevents the king from moving to g7 to push the f-pawn, which is closest to the black king, as then black could not attack the g-pawn. The alternatives are g3, and then king g7. This is the key move and a very important resource for the kings to support his pawns. Dvoretsky calls this method a change of the leader. The king secures the advance of this f-pawn and wins, which otherwise would be impossible. So if g7, king d4, king f7, king e5, and an easy draw. Yeah, again, you just take and then take. Wow. So that's a mistake then. But king g7, and we're changing the leader. A change of the leader. Therefore, rook g3 seems to be a waste of time. Okay, so instead of rook g3, we're playing rook f3. Alright, let's look at another alternative. He also mentions king d4 as a first move. King d4 looks better, but again, king g7. And the same idea as in the previous line, but with a more elaborate execution. Other moves only lead to a draw. King e5, f6, king f3, or rook f3, f7, and white wins. This is the problem. Black cannot exploit the extra time to attack the backward pawn, that is the g6 pawn, with the king, so he loses. Okay. So back to the main line. So g7. All right, and he's looking at other tries for white. So king e6, king g3, and neither pawn can advance. King e5 looks nonsensical compared to rook e6, but it has a hidden idea of king g3, of rook g3 f6. Wait, we just played rook g3. Now, if the rook captures the g-pawn, the f-pawn advances, and ending 29, where the rook loses, arises. But after rook g5, black will sacrifice the rook for 2 pawns. Rook takes g6 is f7. Wait, what? The king's on e6, right? Okay. Confusing my lines. g7, and now rook g3. The rook has lost the tempo, but the king is closer to the backward pawn. Iguera. Yeah, it's not in-game tactics, it's just in-game techniques. Yeah, I'm learning how, how to evaluate these positions and what the plans are for each side. So, rook g3. The rook has lost the tempo, but the king is closer to the backward pawn. So king f7, king d4, f6, and king e5, and it's a draw. And if he hadn't gone, let's say, if he hadn't gone f6, and instead tried to promote here, then you sack the rook, and then this is a draw. So further analysis is not necessary. We should look at the position closely because this is the most extreme. This is the most typical extreme situation in this endgame. This is the situation that black has been aiming for ever since his paradoxical first move. The rook controls the advanced pawn promotion, whereas the king keeps an eye on the backward pawn. It is an immediate draw. Dvoretsky calls the situation the tail hook, an expression used by pilots and the very visual metaphor. A series of checks. All right, so we have a new position here, where the white king is misplaced, but it's on the other side. All right, so let's call this stronger king away, but in front. All right. Oh no, wait. No, the black king is going. Okay, so this position, I'm not even sure what to call this. All right, let's title this later. I'm just set up the position now. Here, he keeps switching which side has the rook, which is a little bit confusing, but it's not that much. And here it's black to play. This position comes from an actual game. In fact, I'm just going to title it just the way the author does, series of checks. This position comes from an actual game. Once again, we can see that although white's position looks desperate because the king is so far away from the promotion squares, there are plenty of resources for the rook. In concrete, this example shows the effectiveness of a series of checks to clear the way for the tailhook. All right, so black started with g3. All right, so he goes into a whole bunch of sidelines to prove that if black had started with this pawn advance instead, that it also leads to a draw. But okay, I'm not going to go through all that. King e7. Maybe I will after this one. We'll go through those lines in a minute. Actually, I'm going to just want to go through the main line first. All right, so white responded with king a7. Then h4. King e6. King g4. Okay, so now white made a mistake actually in the game king a5. White plays a logical move to bring the king closer and reaches a losing position. It was necessary to switch to the other plan. The rook delivers the checks and the king tries to get in contact with the backward pawn. All right, so we'll mark this as a mistake and give the better version. So king g7 check. King f3, rook f7 check, king g2, king f5, h3, king g4. The king contacts the pawns. It's draw. Now h2, rook h7, king f2, king f4 is a draw. Huh. All right, so after king f2, so after king e5, black played g2, which is also a mistake. Returning the favor right away. Calculations are very complex here. Placing both pawns on the 6th rank was winning, though there was some missing traps to avoid. h3. Okay, so let's go back a move and show the win. So h3 was the winning move. King e4. h2. Rook h8. Okay, I'm getting mixed up. What happened? I missed a move or something here. So h3, king e4. I got that. Yeah, h2, rook h8. g2. That's what it is. Rook g8 check. King h5. The king flees from mate. King h3, king f3. Wow. So king h3, king f3. That's crazy. You have to get like a knight here, and it's equal. Apparently, this is a draw. Okay, why is this a draw? King f2. Oh, I see. So you make a queen, but you lose it. I see. Yeah, the king is trapped. He can't go away from the h file. And you can't kick the king away from from guarding the square. Wow. Okay. All right, so back to the game. G2. Now white played king e4, king h3, rook g7, king h2, king f4. So king f4 lost the game. That was the final mistake. Another mistake here. Went h3, king f3, queen, and black wins because the white king can't stop this h pawn. The game would have went like this. Wow. All right. That was really something. So the better move after, instead of king f4, was king f3. And then you play h3, king f2, king h1, and now it's equal. So white would have drawn this as opposed to losing the way he did. That's crazy. All right. Okay, so wow, we're moving away from rooks now. So bishop and pawn plus bishop. It's a whole new topic. Bishop and pawn versus bishop. Same color. All right, let's empty the board. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on here before I read the text. There we go. And I didn't actually check to see whose move it was. Yeah, it's white to play, right? Yeah, good. All right. So here's the discussion here. Again, a simple but somehow important chapter. Endings with same-colored bishops arise with reasonable frequency. When there are many passed pawns on the board, the technique is easy and well known, especially the concept of the bad bishop. However, with just one pawn, many players ignore an essential defensive method, rear opposition, which we will see in endings 34 and 35. Okay, this is ending 33. I should mark that. Since it is not an intuitive idea, few players find it if they do not know it. Even distinguished players have resigned and drawn positions. Here we acknowledge the labor of Averbach and Centurini, who studied almost all possible positions in great detail before the advent of computers and the Nalimov table bases. Thanks to the labor of these great analyses, we can see that there is a series of very clear positions which help us find our way with ease. We could talk about 4 basic cases. Actually, I will list them in the annotations, but since I have more confidence in descriptive headings, I will not label these endings as first case, second case, and so on, though some reviewers may prefer that system. It is easy to see that if the defending king stands on the square in front of the pawn opposite the bishop's color, it is an ironclad draw. There is no need for analysis here. We can call this scenario the 0 case. Ending becomes interesting when the defending king cannot secure a position in front of the pawn, driving off the defending bishop. All right. Here we classify as the first case, the stronger side's king near his pawn and ready to offer a bishop trade, and the defending king is far away. Then the stronger side usually wins with the standard maneuver, driving off the enemy bishop from the diagonal which crosses the pawn's path. So bishop f3, trying to interpose, right? White is ready to move the bishop on c6, the ideal square. Trying to trade bishops on d7 also wins, but then the black bishop could relocate and offer resistance on the other diagonal, and driving off process would be longer. It is easy to see that in order to drive off the defending bishop, the bishop swap has to be arranged where it does not interfere with the advance of the pawn. While this is obvious, the consequences are important for the theory of this ending. Bishop a4. Bishop c6. The black bishop has to leave or allow the exchange. Bishop takes c6. King takes c6, rook e8, king c7, and the pawn promotes. It has been easy. Conclusion: without the support of the defending king, the bishop can always be ousted from the diagonals, which control the advance of the pawn. Of course, then it is clear that the game is won if the pawn crosses the last blockade square. So are there hopes for the weaker side? The bishop needs the king's support, but how exactly can the king give support? All right, so 34, king supports from the rear. Ariel was taken. How's it going, man? Hope you're in the mood for some endgames. All right. So this is what we would call the second case. The defending king has reached the rear position. From his position, he hinders an essential maneuver. Now the stronger side cannot offer the bishop trade without obstructing the pawn. The driving off maneuver does not work now. So we start with bishop d7. Oh, come on. Why is it black to move? Great. Okay, so I need a new chapter, but it's white to move here. And it's going to have the same name. 34. King supports from the rear. And we can delete the first one. All right. So now bishop d7. This is the only square available for the bishop exchange. On c8, white would lose the pawn. The black bishop moves away, but gets ready to occupy the other diagonal. Bishop f1. Bishop g4. Bishop b5. It becomes apparent now that if the black king did not control c6, white would have the winning maneuver bishop f3 to c6. But now that is impossible. Bishop d7. Bishop e2. Bishop c6. Bishop g4. It's a draw. Conclusion: when the defending king cannot stand in front of the pawn, the ideal position for him is behind the stronger side's king in opposition. As we'll see right now, we should not rush to assume that this defensive technique will always bring a draw. All right. So now we go 35. Short diagonals. The stream stopped. Uh-oh. What's going on? I'm still broadcasting. I'm not sure. All right. Okay. So All right, let me set up this position. So with different pawns, the position is not so easy with that opposition. All right, white to play. Is it white to play? It is white to play. Okay. So here there's no way to get off the board, and the black bishop can't go back on to this side of the board, right? Like this diagonal is too short to have that maneuver to go from both sides. This position belongs to the third case. The defending king is behind the pawn. Similar to the second case, however, a special feature will help us distinguish between the second and third cases. One of the diagonals is very short. It's this guy. Oops. How short? It's less than 4 squares long. That is the point. Let us see why. So that we can so that we can learn the rule and thus guess the exceptions. All right. So let's prove this. Bishop c8. The first stage of the winning plan is to drive off the black bishop from the long diagonal. Bishop e4. Bishop b7. Bishop d3. Now bishop f3. Bishop a6. Bishop g4. Wait. Bishop g4. Oh, wow. That's so cool. It's Zugzwang. Oh, that's beautiful. There's no good move for the king, and the short diagonal is controlled by white. 2 squares by the king and 1 by the bishop. Let us pay attention to the situation once again. The bishop can just take one square away from its counterpart. Therefore, the king must take care of 2. Now we can draw some important conclusions. When the defending king is taking the rear opposition, the ending is drawn if both controlled diagonals are 4 or more squares long. The stronger side wins if the diagonal is less than 4 squares long, and he can control them all with the king and the bishop. So I'm reading 100 Endgames You Must Know by Jesus de la Villa. Of course, the rule only applies when the pawn has to cross the last blockade square. If the pawn is less advanced and there is yet another blockade square, the stronger side succeeds only in crossing the first obstacle. Victory will depend on the success or failure of the new defensive setup on the next blockade square. Following this rule about the length of diagonals, some theoretical studies present a borderline between the drawn and winning positions, depending on how advanced the pawn is. These borderlines are not my cup of tea, although I cannot deny that they have a certain theoretical interest. I think it is better to try to remember why things happen. There is an apparent exception to the 3-square diagonal. The attacking king controls just 1 square. All right, so let's go with the exception. This is obviously white to play here, because he's in check. All right. So the good move is king g8, but let's look at the bad move first. So king e8, king e6. Adopting the rear opposition, an easy and known method from the beginning. We have plenty of time, so we could play first king g6 or king f5. However, at the key moment, while the bishop goes to e7, the black king should always be ready to get to e6. Bishop f8, bishop f4, bishop b4, bishop h6, bishop d2, bishop g7. The bishop has more than 1 square. Bishop e3, king d6, bishop d2, king e6. Time to go back. It is interesting to note that other king moves would lose, since they would allow the white king to make it to the other side of the pawn. King d5, for example. Let's go back. King d5, king e7. So now with the king on the other side of the pawn, white wins. The winning sequence is to analyze, and I suggest doing it as an exercise. Alright, so from here, bishop c3, bishop h6. So it's a draw. There's no way to make progress. The white king controls just 1 square on the short diagonal, so it is impossible to win. Yeah. So the king needed to be over here. Right, so king g8 was the only move. So now, because it's the short diagonal, but remember the bishop can only control 1 of those squares. So the king has to control 2. Let's go back to king g8. And this is the winning move with king g6 here, taking the diagonal opposition. And bishop f8. This wins in the same fashion as in the previous example. So I'm just turning on the engine to show like what. You go here. Ah. Well, wait a minute. trying to understand here, because the white bishop needs to control this square. So we go here. Oh, I see. So now we just make a waiting move, and the bishop going either way is immediate loss. I see now. Yeah, if the bishop goes back, it's like a zigzwing. And if the king moves, yeah, then we have this check. King can't move this way. Yeah, so that's the win. Okay. That took me a minute. That's pretty cool, actually. So we go back. Here, there, bishop h6. And yeah, you can control all the squares. We just wait, and this bishop is in zigzwing. And the pawn promotes. Wow. Okay. So the frontal, now we'll talk about the frontal defense. 36. The white king is here, black king is here, white pawn here, bishop is here, white bishop is here. And it's black to play. There are not many studies about the situation, but I have found some mistakes in its application in practice. We consider this the fourth case. Since we already know the basic situations, let's start off with this position, still far from the key moment. So king d7. Okay, so this is an actual game from 1971 Hastings. I'm going to try to pronounce the players' names. Kurajika versus Markland. So king d7. The black player shows his ignorance of the basic drawing procedure, and thus making life difficult for himself. The simplest defensive one was king d5. King g6. King e4. Bishop c7. Well, I'll just put it on the line. I'll just put it on the board. So king d5, king g6, king e4, bishop c7, king f3, bishop d8, king g4, and it's equal. The black king makes it to the rear of the pawn, getting the opposition. All right. Then we go king g6 and king e8. Now there was no time to get to the g4 square, but it is still a draw. Black can try another drawing procedure. It is well known and more delicate, but worth knowing, in case one reaches a position where the rear opposition defense is not available. The king heads for the g8 square. Bishop f4. Trying to cut the black king's path to f8 would not work. Black just waits. Bishop d6, bishop d4. Bishop d4. However, black fails to find the second defensive method as well. The correct move was king f8. Bishop h6 check, king g8. The key point is that when the black king is here, white cannot offer the bishop exchange on g5, since it leads to a drawn position, a drawn pawn endgame. Bishop g5. Let's see. Bishop g5, bishop d4, bishop f6. As usual, if the attacking side offers the bishop exchange in front of the pawn, the defending bishop just switches to the other diagonal. Bishop f2. Bishop e5. Yeah, Ariel. Bishop h4. Bishop f4. Bishop d8. Bishop g5. This confirms the draw, but anyway, there is no way to make progress. As bishop takes g5, king takes g5, king f7. All right. So instead, he played king h6. Oh, sorry, not king, bishop h6. Black resigned, maybe because the game was adjourned here. In any case, victory comes easily because white cannot offer the bishop exchange without obstructing his pawn. So king e7. Bishop g7. Huh. Conclusion. Frontal opposition when the defending king is next to the promotion square works if the pawn cannot go further than the 6th rank. All right. Revision of some assorted themes. Okay, so we have an Aberbach study, I guess, coming up. Pawn now is on this rank. Bishop here. And then the white bishop is back here. Typos. All right. An interesting position. White, we can revise some of the themes previously introduced and note some well-known tricks. So bishop h5. Oh, it's black to move here. All right. Add a new chapter. Same thing. White to play. Great chapter. All right, what's going on? Oh, so I did it, but I didn't title it. All right. Copy this. Delete the chapter. And put the name in here. Okay. Bishop h5. The only attempt to win. If white allows king e8, the black king reaches d8 with an immediate draw. Bishop h3. There are two possible winning attempts. Black has to be careful in either case. King e5. The most dangerous winning attempt. Black can draw if he grasps white plan and knows the defensive technique of transferring the king to the rear of the pawn. The white plan is to take the king to c7 square. Black's only defense involves transferring his king to c5. There is time enough for this, but black will not do it unless he knows what is going on. 2. Bishop g6. Wait a minute. There's another. This now he's talking about the other 2. Bishop g6. White tries to win by trading bishops on f5. It looks like a terrible threat, but it's easy to prevent. Bishop d7. The only move. Note that the position would be more dangerous with a knight's pawn. Then a zugzwang would arise because the bishop could not go to the short diagonal. Now the bishop can move along the other diagonal. Okay, let's go back to the other thing. Bishop d7. Bishop d7 is waiting, but it just means losing. So this move does not bring immediate disaster. King g7, if we know endings 33 and 34, we can understand the rightful defensive procedure for black. So the way to draw is to come around the pawn this way. So again, white wants to come down here, and black needs to come up here. So something like this. Like that. And now black can draw. All right. So bishop d7 is losing basically because he didn't He didn't bring his king around to the right defensive side. So king d5, bishop a4, again trying to wait, but oh, he gives the actual drawing line here as well. So king g7 here would have drawn king c5, king f6, king b6, king e5, king c7, king... Oh, bishop h3 now. Wait, what? Alright, so I'm on move 8, bishop d7. Okay, I've got something messed up here. So after king e5, it was king c7, then bishop h3, bishop f3, king d4, bishop e8, e8. Oh no, bishop c6 is the move. Bishop c6, and white is winning. Oh, I see. I confused the sideline. Okay, wait a minute. King d4. After king d4, the move given is bishop e8. Wait. Bishop d7. What? King d4, bishop d7. What? Oh, bishop f3 was not the move. That's why. Okay. Bishop e8 was the move here. All right. Now I'm not confused. Okay. Bishop d4, bishop d7, bishop f1, king g4, bishop g4, bishop e5, bishop f3. Oh, and the king gets there just in time. Wow. Okay. So now I've gone back to the position where you know, black didn't do this plan, going king g7. So king c5, bishop d7, king b6, bishop a4, and now king c6. Sorry, king c7. And now this is white's winning here. And I'm just trying to remember the plan for white here, to yeah, because the white bishop has to get here, while the bishop is here. The whole deal here is to go like this way. Yeah, there's no way to stop. As long as we can, as long as white threatens to change the bishops on a square that doesn't block the pawn, then we're good. Yeah, that's the plan here. Very nice. All right, actually I want to keep those arrows in here in the study. Okay. All right, so we're done with bishops are the same color and one pawn. So we're gonna start a new thing here, 37. All right, 37. Knight plus pawn versus bishop. All right, and then this diagram looks like this, with the king here. There's a white bishop here. Black king is back here. Pawn here. Oh wow. So the white king is really far away now. Yeah. And whose turn is it? It is black to play. All right. Okay, so after rook king games, the most common in games are bishop versus knight. See statistics. With many pawns on the board, these endings are very interesting from a strategic point of view. On the contrary, bishop versus knight theoretical battles with just one pawn on the board are less interesting from the practical point of view, therefore will be one of the shortest chapters in the book. These endings are interesting because they either can be easily solved, most positions, or it is difficult to set useful rules to solve them. We can say endings are richer in tactics, maybe due to the presence of the knight or the inherent knight-bishop imbalance. Section 1, knight plus pawn versus bishop. Let's focus on this case, which is the most interesting one. Compared to the previous chapter, here, bishops managed to draw with great ease. The theoretical impression is confirmed by the statistics. Bishop plus pawn versus bishop is 47% wins. Here just 25%. And this is consistent. The bishop is a stronger piece on an open board. More problems arise when struggling against the rook's pawn, especially when one of the two controls the diagonals is too short. So as we've just said, these endings are rich in tactics and small details can change the final result. There are not many theoretical conclusions to draw. The analysis of just one position is enough to grasp the main points. Here, there are great chances, even when the defending king is far away, especially if the bishop can move along two quite long diagonals. The general rule states that the two diagonals are 5 squares long. There is no need for the king's support. Actually, the bishop cannot lose unless its own king is an obstacle. This is so because the knight has difficulties setting up screens, as we will see now. Thus the bishop gets time to choose the best diagonal. If one diagonal is less than 4 squares long, then the attacking king can maneuver with his knight to dominate it completely. The bishop needs support, but as we will see in this example, the support arrives in time even if the king is far away. The shorter the diagonals, the greater the winning chances for the knight. This is an extreme case. White draws here, but loses with his king on a8. So he draws here, but loses here. That's crazy. The bishop c5 check. Oh, come on. I thought it was black to move. I gotta do this copying thing over again. All right. So let's copy the title. Create a new chapter with white to play. Use the same title. Delete the old chapter. All right. So bishop to c5 check. A logical move, the bishop moves to the longest diagonal. Right, so there's two diagonals in front of the pawn. Bishop h4 check. Placing the bishop on the shorter diagonal was losing because the bishop will be ousted before the king can arrive. All right, let's just show why this is bad. So I'm going to give this a question mark. And king g2, king c7, knight e4, threatening knight g3. Bishop e1. I keep losing my place. Okay, knight c5. King d6. Knight d3. Bishop h4. And king h3. The knight and king control 2 squares apiece. This is the most they can do, but now the bishop has to retreat. This scenario would not be possible on a 5-square diagonal. Wow. That's very cool. All right, so bishop c5. The bishop can stay on this diagonal. All right, so now king e2 and bishop g1. A very difficult move that only analysis can justify. The aim is to quickly bring the king to the c7 square, which was tactically prevented. So c7 and the bishop would be vulnerable. Okay. So knight d5 and knight e3. Ah, I see. So knight, okay. Right, with the bishop on c4, going to f7 would be a problem because this is check, and then it can come back here, blocking the bishop off from the pawn. For instance, king c7, knight d5 check. Yeah, so he gives a line here. But yeah, I think I've just demonstrated that with the whole principle here with the knight forking this square and the king. All right, so now knight d1. This is necessary in order to drive the white bishop off the long diagonal. The knight heads for the f2 square. All right, so king c7, knight f2, bishop h2. Absolutely necessary. Now the bishop will choose the best diagonal depending on where the knight jumps. So king f1 is logical. The king moves to the other side of the pawn. Other moves do not work either, but some care is needed. Okay, and he gives a bunch of sidelines. Bishop e5. Curious, but at the same time logical and necessary move. The black king has relinquished control of e3, so the bishop gets ready to return to the longer diagonal. Any other move would allow black to drive the bishop off. Let's look at this mistake here. King c6. Knight g4. Bishop d6. King e2. Trying to set up a screen on e3. Bishop g3. Knight e3. Followed by knight f5. Driving the bishop off. Okay, so now we have knight g4. And we have bishop d4. King e2, and we're back to bishop g1. And it's a draw. This wonderful study can help us get some interesting ideas. Perhaps just one example is not enough to consider them conclusive, but the analysis of similar positions proves their validity. The conclusions we can draw is that the bishop has the stopping position. The bishop has two stopping diagonals consisting of 5 squares. There's no need of king support. When the shorter diagonal consists of 4 squares, the bishop can be driven off the stopping diagonals. This is by no means easy, so the defending king only loses if he is too far away. The shorter diagonal consists of less than 4 squares. Winning chances are increased. All right. Then we have another one, 38, rook's pawn. All right, so this time the pawn is here, knight's here, king is here, white king is closer, and the bishop is way over here. Yeah, and it is white to play. And I said 28, not 38. Rook's pawns pose more difficulties as defense. This is logical. One of the stopping diagonals can be very short or even disappear when the black pawn reaches the 7th rank. This case arises often, and it contains an unexpected resource, which is worth knowing. Black threatens to place his king on g1 and his knight to g2 to close the only stopping diagonal. White's position looks hopeless, however, there is a hidden resource. Bishop to d7. White must force the pawn to the 7th rank to apply the drawing procedure. h2, bishop c6 check, king g1, and bishop h1. Only move. The threat was knight g2. King takes to h1, and now king f2. Now the black king is trapped. Instead, king f1. Okay, so apparently king f1 is not working, but let's look at that. King f1, knight f5, king f2, knight g3. See, we need knight g3 to come with check. So king f2, so knight f3, king f1, knight d2 check, king f2, knight e4 check, king f1. Yeah, it's a draw. A brilliant and impressive study by Sam Lloyd which can make us wrongly think that the ending is always a draw with the rook's pawn. This is only true when the defending king is close enough. Let us have a look at the following example. Hang on one sec, guys. All right, and I'm back. It's such a cool draw. Black has all the material in the world, but white draws here. That's amazing. Just because the black king can't move. It's incredible. Okay, back to the thing. Okay, so when the defending king is farther away. All right, so let's look at another one. Bum bum ba-dum. And the white bishop is here. And here it is black to play. I've chosen a position from an actual game to show that this endgame is not very well known despite its theoretical importance. The difference between this position and the previous one is that the defending king is further away. So the white king... Oh, whoops. That's not good. Hang on. The pawn is on the wrong square. Pawn needs to be over here. And it is black to play. All right. All right. So now the white king, like before the kings were here and here. All right. So knight d3 with the threat of knight b2. Now bishop a1 and knight b2. If we compare this position to the previous example, they are very similar but different. The white king is a little farther away, and thus his black counterpart can avoid being trapped in the corner. King e1, and now knight a4. The game continued. All right, well, he shows the drawing line first. So king e2, king c1, losing a tempo to keep the black pieces, or sorry, the winning line. He gives the winning line first, but the game is another one. So king e1, knight c5, king e2, king b1, king d1, bishop d3, king d2, knight b2. And we're back in the continuation mentioned in the comment after black's third move. Oh, he squeaks. Sorry, man, I don't have song request turned on right now. I'm listening to a Pandora radio station. I just wanted some consistent music that doesn't distract me while I'm studying here. Got another phone call. Wow. Hang on one second, guys. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Yeah. So where were we? So here, black is winning. Chess spots for Serbia. How's it going? So, and the reason he's winning, is because the black king has to step away, right? So the black king is going to capture here, and then the white king will not be in time to trap the king on a1. Oh, Fonza. Oh, Fonza Curry. Wow. So you changed your name to Chess spots for Serbia. Nice. I guess I knew at some point that you were from Serbia, but nice. The squeak said, "Yeah, I changed the thing to monthly, so it's only the bits from this month that counts." Nice, man. So I guess this is permanent, right? You're no longer Fonza Curry. I can't call you Fonza anymore, so I'll just call you Serbia. Nice. All right, or unless you have two accounts. Did you change? Yeah, it's the same 100 in games we were talking about earlier. I think about a month ago we were looking over this book. So yeah, I'm in the middle of this book a little bit further down now. Instead of rooks, we're talking about minor pieces. Yeah. So Fonza, is this a second account, or did you change your old account's name? Like, did you change your username, or did you create a new account? I'm curious because a lot of people don't actually realize you sold your soul for $40. Oh, that's funny. So you won the Chess Pots Arena and then decided to change your name. Oh, okay. Yeah, so you just changed your name then. Nice. Yeah, I have another account that I do for non-chess stuff. All right. But I don't use it very much. You deleted the Fonza account. Oh, okay. So did you know you can actually change your username? A lot of people don't know this. There's a streamer, another chess streamer, who just created a brand new account, and his old account is just dead now. But yeah, you can totally just change your username. It's weird. Like Gotham Chess used to be called Crew 64. So he just changed his name from Crew 64 to Gotham Chess. Yeah, your soul ought to be worth more than $40, man. Okay. All right. So now we're going to be talking about when the so here we were talking about when the knight has the pawn. Now we're going to talk about when the bishop has the pawn. So let's so the bishop pawn. So bishop and pawn versus knight. All right, so set up this position. And there's a white pawn. Almost progression. Black knight and black king. None of this is there. And there's a white bishop here. The bishop's on the wrong color. And this is white to play? Yeah. All right. Have you watched Isle of Man? A little bit. Some of the earlier rounds I caught. Some of the live chess.com commentary. I haven't seen some of the later stuff. No. Okay. Karyakin won an Endgame 2 knights versus pawn. Oh wow, that's so cool. Yeah, because the knights can checkmate if you get an extra tempo. Like if you stalemate the king, and then that's nice because you let the pawn move just in time. I've seen that ending before. Serbia, I can't. I don't even have my Nightbot up. Like it would involve a whole thing of me changing music stuff. Like I'm in the middle of Pandora right now, and Pandora doesn't hook into Twitch at all. You can send me a link, and maybe if I could just click on it and press pause, that might work. But let's not do it through Nightbot. Just send me a YouTube link. You can link to YouTube in the All right. Okay, so back to this Endgame. Apparently, black can successfully defend this position because he cannot control the d8 square with both the king and the knight. However, this is not true. All right. I'm going to pull this up. Celtic metal. Oh boy. What is this, man? Okay, we'll listen to this. Is this too loud though? Oh, I just realized I'm on the wrong browser. Hang on. Yeah, that was way too loud, I think. All right. Yeah, the video of that was really beautiful. Okay. It's too bad I don't want to. Okay. All right. So apparently, okay. So I'm reading from the book here. Apparently, Black can successfully defend this position because he can control the d8 square with both the king and the knight. However, this is not true. Actually, Black's best drawing chances involve the threat of a check on d6. Oh wow. Black's best drawing chances involve the threat of a check on d6. The check on d6 does what? Check on d6 pushes the king somewhere? I don't really understand. Okay, so he does give the line where white falls into the check. So bishop d5 would be a big mistake. Knight d6 check, king c7, knight e8 check. Oh wow. Oh, I see. It's perpetual. Wow. Yeah, because you can't take this. This is a draw, right? That's awesome. Okay. But instead, the winning move, white can still win here apparently. King c7, parrying the drawing threat. Apart from the text move, only bishop c6 wins, preventing the checks on e8 and b5. Yeah, so bishop c6 would control e8. So knight d8, and then and then bishop d5 with a zugzwang. Zugzwang leads to the immediate loss of the knight. Wow, that's pretty cool. So even though the knight and the king, are working with the square, it doesn't work because of this. And if we had a dark square bishop, it'd be much easier, right? The dark square bishop would make this much easier. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's nice to know that the knight versus bishop, even if the bishop's on the wrong color square, it doesn't really matter. All right, so there's a bunch of I'm going to show some diagrams here. I need to switch though. Chrome and me, yeah, so I can drag this over and show you guys. So there's some diagrams here where the knight blockade series. So white wins no matter who moves, right? Because of the zugzwang. Because white can go back and forth. That makes it draw no matter who moves. Wait. Why is it a draw? Isn't this? So exercise. Look carefully at the following series about knight and blockade and check in their statements. This will help you fix your knowledge. Huh. Why doesn't this work? Draw no matter who moves. Oh. Is there some kind of stalemate trick? No. Okay, this one is tricky. I don't understand this. And white wins no matter who moves. Yeah, well, the knight being in the corner kind of. Draw no matter who moves. When the white pawn is on the 7th rank, passive defense usually loses to zugzwang. The defending side has two possible drawing resources: perpetual check with the knight, or stalemate when the pawn is close to the edge of the board. That's true, Serbia. Okay, so I don't get why this is a draw. How does black? Is there some perpetual I'm not seeing here? Like, how does black do this? If the knight moves, white takes it and then queens. And the black king moves. Oh, black has king h8 here. Is that h8? Yeah, king h8 here. And then white can't take the knight because it's stalemate. Yeah, king h8. Yeah, I just saw that. So white can just, or black can just shift the king from h8 to g7 back and forth all day long, and it's a draw. And now white wins here because there's no stalemate chances when the black's on the wrong side. Like black is on the open side of the pawn here. So white wins. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Stalemate tricks are useful. Okay. All right, let's go back to this. So yeah, the two possible drawing resources are perpetual check with the knight and stalemate when the pawn is close to the edge of the board. When the pawn is less advanced, zugzwang is impossible if the defending king and knight control the square in front of the pawn, the opposite color of the bishop. Then a type of position arises which is interesting only when the position of the knight is unstable. Here zugzwang can help the analysis, but it is impossible to set a general rule. Each case requires a calculation. Therefore, we present just one example. It can be a guide for further study, but not a source of theoretical conclusions. Unstable position of the controlling knight. Stable knight. And this is white to play, and the knight's going to be here, the black king. White king here, the pawn's here, and the bishop is here. Yes. Right. Okay. All right, so it starts with bishop b3 check, king c5, bishop a2. Other bishop moves also win. And he goes to a whole bunch of options here, whatever. Knight c6. I don't go through all the sidelines here. Knight c6. What? What are you talking about? Do I have this diagram wrong? Like, oh, king c6. Jeez. All right. Why are we not taking this? Oh, right, because we're losing the pawn. Yeah. And then, yeah, bishop a2. So, like, he gives other options other than bishop a2. Or no, he doesn't. He actually. I think the correct form is illogical. It's one of those crazy English things. All right. All right, I need to bring my music back. What happened? Did we not? Yeah, that was weird. Chrome just kind of, or not Chrome, but Safari just kind of wigged out on me. We never heard your song, right? Right, Serbia? Like, we heard the beginning of it, and then, yeah, let's get back to that. All right, that's a little loud. All right. So now king e6. Anua, master of Gaia. Hello. Hey, I remember this. I remember that name before. Okay. Bishop h6, knight h7. Knight d5, or sorry, bishop d5 check. King c5. King e7. Knight f6. Oh. No, it is bishop e4. Wow. Apparently this is a zigzwang. Karpov, Kasparov. Oh, man. So this is crazy. This whole line. So you can't go here because of this check. You can't take the knight because you take the pawn. Just hanging pieces left and right, but it doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is the pawn. You know? Yeah, fate. This is analysis, right? Like the game didn't actually play this way. I don't think this even is a game. Yeah, this is a study that someone made, and there's all these crazy lines here. I mean, you just have to calculate this. There's no general rules or ways of thinking here. Okay, let's at least try to figure out why it's zigzwang. What options would black have? Like obviously black doesn't want to step away from the pawn. As soon as the black king steps away from the pawn, we can take his knight. And if he moves his knight, let's say knight here, we take it. So I was thinking knight here because of this check, right? Like we want to be able to do this check. Let's say he moves here, or yeah, here. So now we can advance our pawn and we win. That's why it's zigzwang. So the knight has to leave this square, or the king has to leave this square. You take here, you're losing. There's no check here to save the day. What a crazy position. This is about the most complex zigzwang I think I've ever seen. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know how long you're going to have to play chess before you see a position like this in one of your own games, but it's still an interesting concept. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about opposite colored bishops with 2 pawns. So this is going to be 41. Opposite colored bishops and 2 pawns. All right, and the position is going to be, and there's a long discussion here before we get to this. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I've been on the attempting to draw side of these positions quite a bit and failed. So I'm really interested to know how this works. All right, and whose turn is it? White to play. The Immortal Zigzwang game. I'm not sure I have, Ariel. Okay, so there's a lot of discussion here. So this is the chapter. This chapter and the chapter on rook endings are the most important ones in this book. Opposite colored bishops endings occur quite often in practical play. This is probably due to the fact that the player with an inferior position tends to look for the salvation in the allegedly drawn endings. However, the reasons to recommend the study of these endings go beyond the regular recurrence. First, they allow deep analysis, therefore their theoretical study is well developed. Second, they require a rather particular technique which has to be learnt. We can say that in many positions, intuition has little to do with the correct decision. Of course, this is a subjective idea, but it implies that at least it is difficult to find our way in these endings without some basic knowledge. Third, since defensive resources are well known, there are hardly any possibility of a counterattack. We can develop our plans with clarity and depth. This allows us to take good simplification decisions and turn these into endings with good fields for training. Last, the study of theoretical positions will show us some ideas that can be applied to endings with more pawns on the board. Summarizing, if you skip this chapter or do not pay much attention to it, you will make a big mistake. This chapter will reward you a lot with lots of points in tournament play. We will study directly with positions where one side is 2 pawns up. With just 1 pawn, endings are very simple. Everything depends on the defending bishop's success in controlling the pawn's path. We will divide our study material into positions with separated pawns and positions with connected pawns. The case with the double pawn is just too obvious. When the defending king and bishop can control the square in front of the pawns, it is a draw. If they fail, the first pawn will win, and the bishop and the second one will promote. Section 1. Connected pawns. In contrast with any other kind of ending, where two connected pawns are overwhelming, drawing chances are higher here because the defending side can block their pawns or sacrifice his bishop for them. Let us begin with the study of advanced pawns, and then we will move from them back down the board. All right. On the 6th rank, the pawn usually wins. The winning procedure is quite easy, but it is worth noting in order to become familiar with the required technique. The white pawns cannot advance. Not to e7 because then black would give up his bishop for the two pawns, and not to f7 because then both pawns would be blockaded on squares of the same color as the white bishop. This blockade is impossible to lift and is one of the trademarks of the opposite colored bishop endings. So white cannot think of advancing the pawns, and instead they have to stay on the 6th rank until the moment comes to move e6, e7. Okay, so when they're advanced, you don't want the pawns to be like this. You want them to be like this. The plan consists of two clear stages. The first stage is the bishop check to force the enemy king to define his position. So you start out with playing bishop b5 check. So king d8. If king f8, white carries out the same plan on the other flank. And then you play king f5. And then the second phase is attacking the king. The attacking king outflanks his opponent. This plan would not be possible with the black king on f8 and the black bishop on d8. f8 and d8. But then white would lose one tempo and black would be in zugzwang. We will see this in our next example. All right, so bishop c5. Bishop c5. King g6. Bishop b4. King f7. Bishop c5. e7 check, and white wins. All right. Okay, so for the next chapter, we're going to say the bishop is in front. Bishop. Here, black there, and white bishop. Here it's white to play. Alright, so that song was over. We'll go back to the regularly scheduled Pandora radio station that I was listening to earlier. Okay. As we will see, this is a useful defensive resource when the pawns are on the 5th rank due to the attack on the f-pawn. However, it is not enough to draw here due to zugzwang. So bishop b5 check. King f8. And now king f5. Zugzwang. The next move, the pawn will move to e7 because one of the black pieces must surrender control of that square. So yeah, both of the black pieces need to guard against this move. We can then conclude that the two connected 6th rank pawns always win. Not yet. There is one exception. Okay. Rook and knight pawns. All right. This is the only exception where the two 6th rank connected pawns. Let us see the characteristics. The knight and rook pawns versus defending bishop on the long diagonal. So the defending bishop has to be here. King f8. This time it is not the usual stalemate themes that frequently arise in endings with the rook and knight pawns. The black king moves here because outflanking on the other side is not possible. In case of king h8, white wins in the usual fashion. King e6, Bishop b2, king f7, check. Interesting. So king e6, bishop b2. Black has just to wait, therefore it is a draw. Yeah, the white king can never control this square. Well, that was a quick example. Conclusion. Yeah, so like before, when we checked the king, and the king had to announce which way it goes, and the other king just goes the opposite way. But when the black king goes this way, our king went that way, and when the black king goes this way, our king goes this way. But here we can't go if the king goes this way, we can't go on the off the edge of the board, right? Okay, so there we have a draw. So the conclusion is 2 6th-rank connected pass pawns always win, except when they're in the rook and knight pawns, and the defending bishop waits on the long diagonal. As long as the bishop is here, it's a draw. King f5. Wait. Oh, king i5, yeah. Instead of h5, i5. That would be awesome. You just go off to the side of the board here. All right. Okay. All right, so we're going to back the pawns up here and look at the procedure to advance from there. So let's go back up. Okay, so let's call this diagram something new. Winning procedure. Oops. We're backing the pawns up to the 5th rank, and the white king is here. White bishop is here. Black bishop is here. King is here, and it's white to play. All right. The bishop g5 check. Oh, let's read what he says here. In the diagram position, the black bishop is on the wrong diagonal. Although the bishop controls the e6 square, it cannot prevent the following maneuver, very similar to that of the 6th rank pawns. In our next example, we will see the correct defensive procedure. Okay, so he's saying that the black bishop is misplaced. All right. So bishop g5 check. The first stage is to check to force the black king to choose which side to move to. So and again, we're talking about the side because why are we talking about the side? Is it like this side or this side of this pawn? So before we were advancing the pawn. Oh, I see. Because you don't want the pawn, like we can't advance this pawn first. Right. You don't want both your pawns on the same color square as your bishop, so you're trying to advance this pawn first. When you advance this pawn first, the black king has to be on one side or the other, so that this king can go on the other side. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So we're asking the black king to choose which side of the pawn that we want to move forward that he's going to go to. All right. Bum, bum, ba-da. All right. So and he gives a kind of a bad example of another way. Bishop b4 is not correct. If white does not amend his plan, the game will be drawn. King f7. King d4. Bishop c2. Oh, wow. Bishop c2. Black must seize this opportunity to disrupt the pawns. Now they are not ready to move forward. e6 check. King f6, and now the pawns are under attack. e7. King f7. King e5. Bishop a4. And the black pieces cannot be driven off of their blockading positions. Yeah. So the pawns are going to get stuck on the wrong color squares. So instead, we go bishop g5 check. Then I say he goes king d7. All right, so we go back to the other side. King f4. Now the white king outflanks the other side in order to secure the e6 square from f6. So the white king is headed here. The bishop a2. Bishop h4. King g... What? Alright, bishop f7. King g5. King e7. King h6 check. King d7. King g7. Bishop d5. King f6. Bishop e3. e6 check. King e8. King e5. Followed by f5, f6. We already know what to do. That 6th rank pawns win. So yeah, we're threatening this and they can't stop it. Nice. Okay, so the proper defensive... Alright, so the defensive procedure. Alright, so with the king back here, black bishop is here, king here, and this bishop is here. And here's white to play. From c8 or d7, the bishop attacks the f-pawn, thus hindering the outflanking maneuvers and allows a sacrifice against an eventual e5, e6. Ah, I see. So before, he's saying that the bishop was controlling this square without dealing with this pawn at the same time. From here, the bishop is also controlling the square and hitting the pawn all at once. So that's nice, actually. The king can go this way, and we can't go this way for fear of losing this pawn. So bishop g5 check. And king f7. You have to keep on this side, right? So that the king can't come this way. Keeping the double eye on bishop f4. Bishop f4. Bishop d7. White cannot make progress, therefore it is a draw. Wow. We've learned a very important defensive resource that we can adopt against the pawns on the 5th rank or even further back. Note that the bishop halts the white pawns, but sometimes its sacrifice is forced. This can be important when there are more pawns on the board. Alright, so we're going to back up a little bit more with the 4th rank pawns. Here the defender has more options. He can reach the correct defensive position when the pawns are on the 4th rank or on the 5th. However, sometimes this is not possible, and in some cases like this, it is possible that the defender has to be careful. The bishop c4 is the only move here. Black cannot reach the defensive setup against the pawns on the 4th rank because the bishop should be on c6 or b7 for that. So black has to be ready to build the defensive setup with the pawns reach the 5th rank. Then the key squares for the bishop on are f7 and g8. So with the pawns up, we need to be here. Aha. So from here, we want to push this pawn first. So the king has to be on the front of this pawn. But from here, we have to push this pawn first. So now the bishop can guard these. That makes sense now. Yeah, because you always want to push this pawn first, then you want to push this pawn first, and then you want to push this one first. Kind of back and forth. Because the dark square bishop. I need it to be like that. Okay. So bishop g3 check. And now king c6. The advanced d4, d5 has to be hindered until the black bishop gets to the f7 square. Let us check that all alternatives fail. Alright, so I'm not going to go through all these sidelines, but yeah. So now king f4, bishop f7. Now we're reaching the good squares for the next one. So king e5, king d7, king d7, d5, bishop g6. Attacking the pawn is not necessary, but it's the simplest way to hinder white's maneuvers. So king back to d4, bishop h7, e5, and bishop g8. And finally, black has reached the desired defensive setup. When the two pawns are on the 5th rank or further up, the defending side reaches the right defensive setup, the ending is drawn. That setup involves placing the king in front of the pawns and the bishop in such a position where it can prevent the advance of one pawn while simultaneously attacking the other. The less advanced the pawns are, the more chances for the defending side to reach the desired setup. Okay. I should drink some water. Okay. All right. So now we have 43. Very special pair pawns. In our last example, we saw that setting up the defense can be difficult. Also, we noticed that with the pawns are in different ranks and on different squares of the same colors as the enemy bishop avoiding the blockade, the defending side may be in trouble. However, few players know that there is a pair of pawns that can really be troublesome if not well controlled from the very beginning. Despite its low incidence, this position is worth analyzing due to its exceptional nature, which will help us find new ideas. White has a forced win, despite the fact that his pawns are still on the second rank. How is this possible? First, it is important to note that this pair of pawns, EF or CD, standing on F4 and F on E5, can leave a bishop on the long diagonal out of play. So they're saying E4 and F5. What? Did I miss that? Standing on F4 and E5. Ah, so this long diagonal is cut off. If we leave our pawns on those same squares, but our bishops switch colors, almost any position would be drawn. If we leave the pawns on those squares, but the bishop's colors switch colors, almost any position. Oh, I see. Right. Second, the black pieces are ill-placed and have no time. Actually, they lack one tempo to reach the ideal defensive setup against the fourth rank pawns. That is the king on F6 and the bishop on D6, C7, B8. So here, with the king on F6. So that's the ideal position. So like they only have 2 moves to set that up because I can put that in there with 2 moves. So start with F4, bishop F8, E4, king E7. Bishop C4, bishop G7, and E5. Black has reached his defensive setup against the 5th rank pawns, but white is not going to push his pawns yet. Note that black's awkward position. The pawn structure always wins, no matter who moves or where the bishops are. White just needs his king defending those pawns. They have built a sort of cage that restricts dramatically the bishop's mobility. On the other hand, the bishop must stay inside the cage because otherwise it will be impossible to reach the right defensive setup against the pawns on the 5th rank. Bishop H6. The most stubborn, black tries to stop the white king. Bishop B3. Bishop G7. King G5. Bishop H8. King G6. King F8. King H7. Bishop G7. Bishop C4. That's amazing. Look at this. White wins the bishop. Oh, it's incredible. Wow. Okay, with that, I'm gonna switch to playing a few games. I don't want to do the I don't want to do the Endgame lecture or whatever on the entire lecture. Like I don't want to spend the entire stream, and I don't have much longer. So I think I'm gonna play like a quick game here. All right. All right. What is the song? All right, it's better now. Okay. I'm just gonna click the 3L button and see what happens here. All right. All right, so D4, D5. Slav. Probably gonna play a semi-Slav. E3 is kind of passive here, I think. I think usually the knight out. It's interesting, he's waiting on this knight. It's funny. Okay, I'm just gonna play Semi-Slav. It's what I know more than other openings. Like this move order is weird though for me. Like I'm so used to knight c3 early. Alright, queen c2. Alright, so now we're reaching a position that I know something a little bit more about by transposition. So I think bishop d6 here. And I'm hoping he moves his bishop now. Okay, yeah, he's waiting to move this bishop so that, yeah, and now he's gonna come back with the b pawn as well. I'll just castle here and see what happens. I'll play b6 to go here. And if he takes back with the b pawn, yeah, I don't know how that works for me. Like I still want to play bishop b7 and c5. So let's just start with bishop b7 for now. I can get the rook on the opposite the queen. And then my plan is to like go here and there. Release this bishop. Yeah, so with the pawn here, that means I can't push this, but it also means their queen and king are not quite in the right place, right? I'm down on time here. Be careful. Oh, my queen has so few places to go. Like his knights are so invasive or whatever. He gets to take back with the bishop here. Oh no, the queen's on the bishop. Okay, never mind. Alright, well this isolated pawn should be good enough. I think I'm just taking it next move, right? I could just take this? Yeah. Alright, 1 minute to try and convert now. The extra pawn. Threatening this knight. Goes the knight here, is what he wants to do. Yeah. Great queens, maybe? Oh, he's got this knight check. Oh, no. That's not what I wanted. Oh, he doesn't go for it. Wow. Okay. Good news. Really good news. Oh, he won a pawn back. Okay, that's too bad. But he gets this weak pawn here. Alright, let's pin this knight. Queen takes f2. When was that on? Alright, knight here looks good. When he initiated a queen trade. Oh, yeah, I was just so That's too bad. I can't move this bishop. That's so annoying. Alright, let's go here. Okay, this should be good for me. It's a double attack. Oh, that's. Oh, it's not mate. Oh no. What do I do? Just take here. That's a free piece. Jeez. Gotta play fast now. Like super fast. Here? This piece. Yeah, it's just a time scramble. Like all I have to do is not lose on time here, but yeah, I went on time. It's just because I don't even know. It's because I was pre-moving and he wasn't probably. I don't even know. He wants a rematch. I'll give him a rematch. I'm gonna hit him with the same exact opening. Oh no, he's playing the King's Indian or Modern. Okay, no, this is more like a Benoni now. Weird. Or Benko? I don't know. He's got a weird move order. He had a weird move order in the first game too. We'll play E4 now. H3. It's just like a weird Benoni where he didn't play H6 in trade. Hmm. No need to play A3 against knight A6. The knight is most often hit to C7 anyway, and you want to play A4 to prevent. Yeah, you know, I thought about this. That's weird. I guess he just moves this to avoid losing it. Yeah, I hear you, Ariel. That might have been a waste of tempo. It probably was. And for some reason, after I played A3, I didn't consider playing A4 to stop this move. But now that that's happened, I'm not even sure who's better. Like, I feel like I still feel like I'm better, even though he's gotten this break done. He can't play this break anymore. I don't know. I just want to play like rook here and bishop here if he plays like this. I gotta be careful about this pawn though, with the bishop. Maybe something like rook a2 or rook here. He's getting low on time now. I was low on time last game. Queen there. I guess I could have just taken that pawn, right? But he takes here. And this pawn's weak. I don't know. Interesting. Let's give him he gave my knight this nice square here. So he's blocking off my defense of this pawn. Oh, that's nasty. Okay, knight here. Nice benefit of him playing here. Also attacks. Oh, right. He was also attacking. I was thinking he was attacking this pawn, but he's attacking this one as well. Okay, let's pin that. Pin that rook. Man, he's killing me over here. I'm threatening bishop here. Oh no, yeah. Well, I'm threatening f3 and then bishop here. But now I can't because of this. Did he just? He just take my knight for free? Wow, like I'm totally out of it now. Like all of his pieces come swarming in here. That's really dangerous. Maybe this b6, this b5 move was more dangerous than I thought. Wow. Yeah, no, I'm just losing my queen. I'm not looking at any of his moves. That's terrible. Okay. One more, but it's against someone else. I don't have much time for very many games, unfortunately. I got someone coming to look at my furnace shortly after the stream. All right. So I don't know anything about this opening. I don't know what to do. I'm just like winging it. He's probably surprised I didn't take his pawn, I guess. Okay. He's wasting a lot of time. Okay, looks like I win the bishop pair now. Might as well do that. I can take here and win a piece, right? I think so. If you try something fancy like this, I can just take this knight. Okay, but now your rook and your knight. I guess he's disrupted my king side now. Carlson or Caruana? Yeah, I mean I'm American, right? So I have to root for Caruana. I can't give up my American card, right? All right, so he's attacking me, guys. Let's go here. That should defend. So somehow I wound up a piece up after all that. I thought it was just winning a pawn, but he gave me an extra piece somehow. I think it's because he took a pawn. Yeah. Like he let me take his knight. That was funny how that worked out. All right, I just want to keep trading material, right? Yeah, Ariel. Some guys just play. I mean, he's good on the clock right now, so. I mean, you just saw me. Oh, you. Wait a minute. What is this? All right, I can't play. Oh, he's got this. Whoops. Okay. I'm still ahead on the clock here. Or still ahead on material. Oh, but he's got a draw. Oh my god. I guess if he wants to take the draw, he can. That's terrible. Otherwise, I'm losing a piece or losing a rook. I'm down on the clock as well. Yeah, good game. Yeah, even if you favor Carlson, you must say Caruana because Trump would give you a one-way card to Mexico. Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, man. You get deported if you favor Caruana. You'd revoke your citizenship. Call your birth certificate a fake birth certificate. Okay. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna sign off. Thanks for joining me today. We learned a lot of in games. Played a few Blitz games. I'm sorry to cut it short. Usually I go for 3 hours at least, but can't today for some household reasons. Gotta have someone here to take care of my furnace. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Same time tomorrow. We'll be having more fun tomorrow. Less serious stuff. More interesting games. More blenders. It'll be fun. We'll see you later.